Welcome to Mickey, Marvel, and More, Disney news, commentary, and opinion. From theme parks to Thanos and from Skywalker to Skyliner, my family and I will discuss it all. So let's go!
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hello, Mark here, and welcome to another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Thanks so much for deciding to hang out with us here today. Whether you're a first time or a long time, we really appreciate your support of our little labor of love podcast. This is the way. Or is it? For the first time since 2019's The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars is back this summer with a new big screen film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. But does Grogu deserve his Nevarro Nummies cookie? Or should he stand in the corner and think about what he's done? Join us in the family chat as Laura and fan favorite Zack and I sit down around the virtual table to give you our thoughts on the new Star Wars film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Cue up Grogu's little sneeze. But before we get to that, how about a little news from in and around the Disneyverse?
I'm so glad we installed an electric light fixture here on the porch because it's just too darn hot to be sewing inside.
Yes, Sarah. Grover, don't interrupt while Sarah's interrupting.
In 1964, one of Walt Disney's contributions to the World's Fair was the Carousel of Progress, with its rotating theater full of animatronics and scenes from 4 different decades. It was one of the biggest hits of the fair that year. After the conclusion of the World's Fair, the Carousel of Progress was moved to its new home in Disneyland in 1967. The COP stayed there until 1973. After leaving California, the attraction was moved to the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World, Florida, where it reopened in January of 1975. The iconic attraction has remained there ever since. Not only has it been in Walt Disney World ever since, there have been virtually few changes to it since its inception in the 1960s. There was a song change for a brief period of time when General Electric sponsored the attraction, but after that sponsorship ended, the original song, There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, was returned to the attraction. Really, other than a few tweaks to animatronics here and there, and a few changes in the final scene to try to make it seem more modern, the attraction has remained virtually unchanged since 1964. That is, until now. Not long after the very first Walt Disney animatronic premiered with the opening of Walt Disney: A Magical Life in Disneyland, it was leaked that there would be a Walt Disney animatronic added to the introduction scene in the Carousel of Progress. But after that mention, not much more has been said about it. But now not only are we going to get the new Walt Disney animatronic for the intro scene, we are going to get a complete revamp of the entire attraction. The turn of the century 1900s, the 1920s, the 1940s, and the 21st century will now be replaced by the 1960s, the 1980s, the new millennium in 1999, and finally a new scene which will be the possible future. I gotta tell you, I'm not sure how I feel about being old enough to have my very own decade when I grew up in the Carousel of Progress. I guess when you get your own decade in the Carousel of Progress, it's time to schedule that colonoscopy. According to online sources, Act 1 will be in the 1960s, set in the summer of 1969, featuring the Apollo moon landing. Act 2 will be set in the 1980s, specifically Halloween in 1985. Act 3 will be the new millennium, which will be set on New Year's Eve 1999. And Act 4 will be the possible future, listed as an out-of-this-world future featuring household robots. My guess is they're going to leave this last act open for changes to keep it way more current than the present final scene. Imagineers have made us a few promises about the new upgrades to the Carousel of Progress, one of which being that they plan to leave the attraction better than when they found it. They also guarantee us that the song There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow will remain, as well as good old Uncle Orville.
No privacy, it's all around this place.
Another change that is going to happen is that the host of the show will change. The current host is the husband, John, lovingly referred to Disney fans as John Progress. John will be taking a back seat to his wife, Sarah, who will now become the show's main animatronic host. So if you want to catch this attraction in its OG format, be sure to head to Walt Disney World before July 6th, 2026, because that's when the attraction will close for its reimagining. According to Disney, the new version of the Carousel of Progress is set to reopen in 2027. Hopefully in this new version, they'll finally get their rumpus room completed.
Are you Tony Stank?
Yes, this is Tony Stank. You're in the right place.
Mickey, Marvel, and More now continues its coverage of the Road to Doomsday. The road now leads us back to Hall H for San Diego Comic-Con 2026. The last time Marvel Studios was at San Diego Comic-Con was 2 years ago when they shocked the world announcing that Robert Downey Jr. was returning to the MCU, this time as a villain playing Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. Back during the days of the Infinity Saga, it was almost a guarantee that Marvel Studios would have a panel every year at San Diego Comic-Con in the very famous Hall H. But in recent years, they've been slowing down their release schedule, and really, if they don't have a new movie coming out right away, they tend to skip it. The Wrap reports that after bowing out of the 2025 iteration of the convention, Marvel Studios will hold one of its famous Saturday night panels on July 25th in Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con 2026. Now, there's no official word on what the panel will include, but a quick look at the press release makes it very, very obvious. Avengers Doomsday is coming. While Marvel Studios has a vested interest in Spider-Man Brand New Day that's going to be released just 1 week after the con, the December 18th release of Avengers Doomsday is just about perfect timing for the July convention. 5 months out from the release is right around the time when you would expect the marketing machine to fully get revved up and rolling along. We expect that not only will there be extended footage played in the room, but also potentially an online trailer release as well. Whether or not that'll be the first or second trailer, only time will tell, but it could very well end up being the first official footage released online. We also imagine that several of the stars of Avengers Doomsday will also be present during the presentation. We still don't know the entire cast, and this could be a great time for Feige and his team to give Comic-Con fans a big surprise. However, I hope they keep the surprises to a minimum, because I want to be surprised when I see it up on the big screen. Stick with us here at Mickey, Marvel, and More as we continue to keep you fully up to date on the Road to Doomsday.
Introducing the most adventurous Walt Disney World theme park ever. Disney's Animal Kingdom. The imagination of Disney gone wild.
Now it's time to continue our streak of some of our favorite news here on Mickey, Marvel, and More. Disney Animal News. Now, I have to admit that I really wasn't entirely excited to learn that Bluey was going to be taking over Conservation Station in Disney's Animal Kingdom, ousting Rafiki from The Lion King as the land's host. Initially, I was afraid that bringing Bluey to this area would not only make the area extremely crowded and not as pleasant as it used to be, but I was really afraid that they were going to be removing animals in place of a cartoon animal. We always enjoyed visiting Conservation Station's animal hospital inside of the main building, where you could watch them care for all kinds of animals from all over Disney's Animal Kingdom, as well as the petting zoo outside. But you don't think that this animal story was going to be just about Bluey, did you? Nope, it's about the animal friends that Bluey is bringing with her. So not only will there be a Bluey and Bingo show, of course, but there will be a whole new section called Jumping Junction where you can meet animals straight from Bluey's home country of Australia. So it looks like this new experience, Jumping Junction, will replace the area that was once known as the Affection Section, the petting zoo that I mentioned earlier. In Jumping Junction, you'll be able to get up close and personal with some animals native to Bluey's home country like kangaroos and wallabies. Currently, at this time, guests aren't able to get too close to the animals as they have just recently arrived and will need some time to acclimate to their environment before guests can get closer. but right now you can see them well enough through the fences. But once the animals are more comfortable, guests will be able to walk around among them. However, Disney is making one thing very clear. There won't be any petting of the animals, so if you're planning a visit, make sure to keep your little guys close by your side. I am very much looking forward to getting up close and personal with some kangaroos and wallabies in this new section. But keep in mind, right now, a lot of people are going to want to visit this experience. So we're telling you now to prepare for long lines at both the Wildlife Express train, which is the train you use to get to the conservation station area, but there will also be long lines at the experience itself. Hopefully, though, as the newness wears off, you'll be able to take the train over and visit the new kangaroos and wallabies at Bluey's Wild World at Conservation Station. As always, Mickey, Marvel, and more will continue to bring you all of the big and tiny Disney animal news, so stick with us.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
For the first time since 2019, Star Wars is back up on the big screen with The Mandalorian and Grogu. But is it worth seeing? Or should you skip it altogether? To help me break all this down, I'm going to invite my lovely wife, Laura, who was there at our screening.
Happy to be here.
And now, live in our studio, not in his hidden bunker in an undisclosed location in Chicago, it's fan favorite Zach.
Happy to be back on the pod.
We are here to talk all about The Mandalorian and Grogu. So just to let everybody know, we'll break this down into two sections like we always do. We will have our spoiler-free review and opinions, and then we will have a section with a few spoilers, although this film doesn't really have a ton of spoilers, and maybe that in of itself is a spoiler. I don't know. So I think first we will address the elephant in the room. Is this movie any good? We'll start with you, honey.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun time.
Fan favorite, Zach?
I mean, yeah, I also enjoyed it. I thought it was a very entertaining movie. I think it was just fine, you know?
Right.
It wasn't bad. I think it was I think it could have been a little shorter, but it wasn't too bad.
So I guess the question that I really want to ask is, could this movie have been an email and not a meeting? Did it need to be on the big screen? Should this have just stayed a television show? Who wants to address that one first?
So I'll start. I thought the production values of this movie did warrant a big screen debut. I thought the special effects looked great, just like any other Star Wars movie. I thought it was a lot of fun to see the ships and the locations and the action all on the big screen. So I thought it was worthy of the big screen from a special effects perspective. From a plot perspective, I don't know if that's quite the right word.
No, it's story perspective.
I'm not sure that the scope of the story necessarily warranted something other than a couple of Mandalorian episodes, but I still liked seeing Star Wars in all its grandeur on the big screen.
What do you think, Zach?
I also agreed that the production value of the movie was a lot better than I was expecting. When I saw the first trailer for it, I honestly thought it just kind of looked like the TV show, like that the production budget hadn't gone up at all. I thought the final product looked a lot better than that in actuality. So, I mean, hey, it was cool to see The Mandalorian season 4 get a, movie production budget. But I mean, that's the thing. I thought The Mandalorian, while the last season was not very strong, it tied up everything very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
They finished the story they set out to tell. I think Disney probably said, we want you to make a season 4. And I have a suspicion that this was going to be part of the plot of the 4th season of The Mandalorian, just without all of the, I assume all these subplots and whatever else were cut out to make a movie. But I mean, yeah, this didn't feel movie in scope, in scale. Honestly, but I also don't feel like this would have been a good 4th season of The Mandalorian, because it feels like tagged on to the end of the story. This feels like the continuing adventures of The Mandalorian, you know?
Right.
I feel like if you wanted to give it that higher production value to sort of say goodbye to these characters, we don't know if we're going to see them again. We probably will. But if they wanted to give it a higher production value, but keep the scope somewhere that makes more sense, I say they should have adopted the special presentation format that Marvel has.
Right.
Where, I mean, they could make it an hour and a half. If they really want to push it, 2-hour special on Disney Plus.
Okay. I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, as much as I enjoyed seeing Star Wars back on the big screen, it didn't feel like, I don't know, the stakes of a movie, if that makes any sense. But maybe that's just my perspective has been warped by how many blockbusters I watch.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us Star Wars fans that are also crossover Marvel fans have kind of forgotten a little bit what the Star Wars movies tend to be, which is not necessarily a huge overarching story that will span multiple movies and multiple television shows. Star Wars at its heart is bad guy black hats, good guy white hats, chasing the MacGuffin, ends in a big battle, and then it goes on to the next film with a similar format. Whereas Marvel kind of in general has an overarching story. And maybe from that perspective, we might have been looking for a larger story that wasn't there. You think maybe that makes a little sense?
I mean, we are, jumping back into these characters that we have been so far comfortable seeing on a television format where you have overarching stories that are told over the period of a season. And, now that I'm thinking about it, this movie is very similar in scale and scope to Solo that came out. It makes me wonder why the reaction to this movie has been a little bit different than Solo. Though, granted, Solo was also not well loved when it came out.
Well, it also had the horrible fate of being slotted just 6 months after what is probably the most controversial Star Wars movie ever, The Last Jedi. Had they waited a total of a year, I think Solo might have had a slightly better reception.
Well, I mean, this just makes me curious that, they have made Star Wars films that are not tied to the Skywalker saga. I mean, this is the third one of those that they've done. And Starfighter is coming out in a year or two. So it just makes me wonder, how successful is Star Wars as a film franchise when it is not directly tied to the Skywalker saga? Because Solo was not particularly successful. This movie, I think, is doing very well, but it's not being the most well received.
Right.
But then Rogue One was very well received, and it directly ties into the Skywalker saga.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely its hook. It leads directly into episode 4.
Like Solo and Mandalorian and Grogu do not have that edge for them. So it just makes me wonder, how much of Star Wars is meant for TV, how much of it is meant for film.
Or do you think in this day and age that everything is, packaged for streaming, so to speak? Where does this fit in that sort of box? Because, what's going to become a movie and what's going to become a successful television show or a one-off television show, it really is hard now to distinguish the difference as from an entertainment's perspective, I think.
Well, in a way, this has a similar energy to me of Netflix really pushing to put the Stranger Things finale on the big screen.
Right.
This is something that originated as a streaming show that, its parent company then said, we want this to be a movie. I think the difference being, though, that was a finale to a 5-season television show. This feels like an epilogue to, a television show.
Yeah.
But I mean, the point still stands that I don't know, the line between television and film and streaming and all of that is much, much blurrier than it was previously. Anything could be a movie on the big screen. Anything could be a movie on the streaming service. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on how much faith the parent company has in that project.
Sure. I mean, I think it all has to do with popularity, right? I mean, The Mandalorian was clearly the most popular of all of the Star Wars series that have come out. And I think it was no surprise to me that Disney wanted to make a big screen Mandalorian movie because they make probably more money, I would guess.
In theory, yeah, because you got to quantify where the money comes from with Disney Plus, because Disney Plus is just a subscription generically for the entire service. And although they do have some metrics and numbers that tell them who's watching what, these streaming services never put that information out there, so you don't know where their bread is going on their butter for these services.
But I think getting back to this movie specifically and our review of it, one thing I do want to say is I felt like this movie did a really nice job of talking and exploring the relationship between the Mandalorian and Grogu. And it was very sweet and very heartfelt. And I think that is something that isn't touched on often enough in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
They tend to focus so much on black and white, good and evil. And I don't think you see too many sweet storylines. And that was one thing that I really liked. And I appreciated the humor too.
Yeah. Baby Grogu sneezing. That was our joke going into this, that we were going to cheer when he sneezed, because that was like one of the things that everybody talked about in the trailer.
Yeah, it did a very good job being a movie about the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
It's Grogu, man. Come on.
But I will say this does bring up my other current gripe with the Star Wars franchise. That I think this is a Filoniism.
Okay.
The whole trope of every Star Wars project that has come out recently has been mentor character takes child on an adventure.
No, that's true. I mean, yeah, you had that in Obi-Wan.
Bad Batch.
You had it in Bad Batch. Ahsoka has a little bit of that with her taking on her apprentice again.
Maul has it to an extent.
Yeah.
But that's a recurring theme, though, throughout the Star Wars movies.
Correct.
I mean, look at Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker. Look at the relationship between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan.
That's true. But, I mean, Luke was effectively an adult. I will give you Anakin because he at least started as a child.
Right.
But this very much feels like a recent thing, and I want them to see. I want to see other Star Wars stories that are not that like. That's not the framing structure.
Sure.
Well, I think what you're saying is just the age of the apprentice / youngling / Jedi / whatever. They're starting. It's always an adult and a child.
Yeah, and I know that's a Filoni thing because that was his winning combo with Anakin and Ahsoka back in the Clone Wars, and like that's where it all came from. I get it, but you can tell a different kind of story. Andor does it. Andor doesn't do that.
That's something we haven't mentioned in the Star Wars, television universe. Could Andor have been a big screen film? Could they have wrapped that one up on the big screen?
I don't think so.
Yeah, probably best served on television.
Well, and let me ask you this. Do you think that this recurring trend in Star Wars movies of having this child apprentice with adult mentor is trying to connect more with a younger generation, with kids specifically, and getting them interested in the Star Wars universe?
I think that makes a lot of sense because they need to propagate this and keep it moving forward. Star Wars came out when I was 7. So those original films to me, that was my adventure. I grew up with those films. Zach had the Clone Wars, and that was his entry point into Star Wars. I mean, he had a little bit of the prequels, but Clone Wars was when he really, I assume, when you really started to get into it.
And now that I think about it, it's kind of weird when you look at what Disney Plus has put out for the Star Wars universe recently, because what projects haven't been as successful? The Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, that wasn't the formula. That wasn't the Dave Filoni formula.
Right.
So I don't know. It's I guess that's just what Star Wars does now. I guess they fly now.
I think a little bit of how this movie got made is they had announced a Mandalorian universe movie that was going to wrap up all of the Mandoverse television shows on the big screen. It was going to wrap up, the Book of Boba Fett, and it was going to bring in the Mandalorian, and it was going to bring in the Ahsoka television show. And then I think when Boba Fett did so poorly as a television show, and it only became popular again once the Mandalorian and Grogu showed up in that TV series, I think they changed their mind on that format, because now the Ahsoka television series is dealing with Thrawn all by itself. Thrawn from the original expanded universe. I think he was going to be the big bad of the Mando universe, but now Ahsoka is dealing with that by herself with her crew and her gang. And I think that they promised Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni a big screen picture. And I think that they wanted to fulfill that deal with them, because maybe Jon Favreau in particular, maybe he would have bailed had they not given the film that they were promised. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
So I want to talk for a minute about some of the things that I really appreciated in this movie,
Sure.
aside from the heartwarming story and the humor. I also liked all of the Easter eggs.
Mhm.
And as
There was a lot.
as a lifelong Star Wars fan, there were a whole lot of touches in the movie that harkened back to tie-ins with the film and other things. And there may have also been tie-ins with the TV series. I have only watched some of the Star Wars series, certainly not all of them, and I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything as I was watching this movie.
So, yeah, before we get more into Easter eggs, we should probably wrap up our spoiler-free review
Yeah.
and then hop into the spoiler section where we can get more into the nitty-gritty.
We'll come back at the very end with all of our last final thoughts. So, Future Mark, come in here and tell us when to fast forward to avoid spoilers. Okay, Future Mark here. To avoid spoilers for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, fast forward to 34 minutes, 8 seconds. All right, guys, let's tear it apart. Let's get into the spoilers. Who wants to go first?
Grogu ate Galaxy's Edge popcorn.
Oh, yeah. As Laura was speaking about just a few seconds ago, the Easter eggs are aplenty, and they deal with a lot of things that are sort of cross promotional.
The Easter eggs in this movie feel like either go to our theme park, do you remember old Star Wars, or I'm Dave Filoni and here are my OCs.
Right.
Okay, but Easter eggs are shout outs to other aspects of the Star Wars. That's what they are. And I'll tell you about some of my favorites. So
No, I'm not saying I dislike them. That was just my jokey way of putting a blanket statement over it.
I mean, I really thought it was cool that one of the main characters was Jabba the Hutt's son. And he was maybe a good guy,
Right.
So I thought that was a lot of fun.
And voiced by Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Right.
But I appreciated the character nonetheless.
And I will say something that felt very impressive to me is the what's the name of the chess game?
Dejarik.
Dejarik, yeah. When they effectively had a live Dejarik game, that really struck me as the kind of nostalgia stuff that a lot of legacy movies will put in, like your Jurassic World franchise, or a lot of the other like modern not reboot continuation
Right.
movies you kind of get. They will have lots of stuff that's like, oh, remember the original?
Mm-hmm.
Did you like that? Well, we're doing it again. And so I felt like the Dejarik scene was that kind of stuff. That was how you do that very well.
Mm-hmm.
It felt very well integrated. It felt like it was very plot relevant, but then it was also really fun to see a Dejarik game come to life.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that segment for a lot of those reasons.
I think for those that don't remember what Dejarik is, that is the game from episode 4 that C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca are playing on board the Millennium Falcon. So all of those creatures came to life in this film and battled each other, and they had all these callbacks to the moves they made on the little board on the Millennium Falcon, and it really made for a very entertaining scene.
I also did really appreciate the segment where Grogu is taking care of Mando and he fully adapts the Yoda persona. He's got the little cane, he makes the mud hut, he's in a swamp.
Yeah, it couldn't have been more on the nose.
Yeah.
Speaking of on the nose, Dave Filoni loves to apparently throw himself into his own films. Now, George Lucas did that a little bit in the prequels, but he was made up. He was Blueface, and he had, a big hat on and a costume. Dave Filoni was just sitting in the bar wearing his cowboy hat. And it was like they cut to him. Everybody's like, yep, there's Dave. And then he shows up later again as an X-Wing fighter pilot. And I'm thinking, how did that cowboy hat fit under his helmet? Because I've never seen him without the hat on before. Yeah, I think there were a lot of really fun Easter eggs. There were tons of callbacks to the Clone Wars cartoons and the episode 2, 1, and 3 battle droids and super battle droids and all the spaceships that they brought in from the X-Wing game and the expanded universe. Dave Filoni was literally throwing everything but the kitchen sink at everybody to say, oh, look, here's this thing you remember, and here's this really cool thing.
I mean, I will say this, Dave Filoni knows his audience.
No, he does.
He knows his audience is people your age who grew up with the Star Wars films, and then people my age who grew up with the prequel era.
Yep.
And then those are the audiences that will be catered to, and the sequel trilogy gets nothing.
Well, and we can also talk about quickly the fact that Pedro Pascal had 10 minutes of screen time, maybe, without the helmet on. Now, he was the voice the entire movie, but I wonder how many days he was ever actually on set.
Nice work if you can get it.
Right. I mean, I guess we should have expected that because he made that big pledge in the third season of The Mandalorian of the helmet is never coming off again. And then, of course, it was revealed to shame him by the twin Hutts. And, of course, then they had to die because they saw his face.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was, I thought there were a lot of great Easter eggs. And that really was what I kept looking for once they started showing up. Then that really did add to my enjoyment, I guess.
Now, I will say, not to be the cynic again, I feel like that's been my role on the podcast recently. But if you are only watching the movie,
I know,
for the Easter eggs and the fan service and all of that kind of stuff, then is it really worth it?
Look, I've said it a million times. I love fan service. Serve me. And that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, bottom line, I enjoyed the movie. Was it Shakespeare? Was it great? Was it the best Star Wars? No on all of those counts. Did it deserve to be on the big screen? I think the way that it looked did. But I think the story was sort of middling. It was basically a couple of episodes glued together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I came into this movie with fairly low expectations, and I was very pleasantly surprised. It was very entertaining. I love Star Wars' commitment to practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just continue to use the puppets. They continue to use animatronics, physical sets. They had stop motion, which was really cool.
That was my absolute favorite part, was the fact that they used actual stop motion in this like they did in the original trilogy, and it was done by Phil Tippett.
And it looked really good.
It did. He was the one that did the original Dejeric table in episode 4, and he animated the Tauntauns and the AT-ATs.
I gotta say, to make stop motion look realistic, genius decision to make it big robots,
right?
Who already have janky movements anyway.
Yeah.
That is the worst part of stop motion, and that was all they had back in the 70s and 80s, and they made great use of it. And the fact that they brought back the OG stop motion man from Star Wars to do this, I thought was a great touch, and it was probably one of my favorite moments of the film is the battle between the stop motion droids and Pedro Pascal. I thought that was just absolutely amazing. Okay, we are back from the spoiler-filled review and back to give our absolute final thoughts. So, what is your go, no-go, wait for Disney Plus streaming for people to go see this in the theater, sweetie?
I thought that the special effects made it a movie that you should see on the big screen. Again, it's nothing serious, but it was a lot of fun for a summertime popcorn movie on the big screen.
Zach, final thoughts.
I mean, yeah, like that pretty much, echoes my thoughts. Is it fantastic? No, but if you like Star Wars, you're probably going to have a pretty good time. Yeah, it's just kind of fun and entertaining.
Yeah, and I've got to say that I agree with both of you. I think it was just a lot of fun to see Star Wars on the big screen again. The visuals were amazing. There were so many parts of this film that worked really well. The story wasn't the deepest, but that's not what I was there for. I was there for Grogu sneezing. So I think we should all acknowledge the fact that it was fun. And it was just a really, really good time. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here for our Mandalorian and Grogu review. And we'll see you next time.
Don't touch the Nemo!
He touched the butt.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. And a big thank you to Laura and fan favorite Zach for hanging out with me in the family chat to yap all about the brand new Star Wars film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Is it Shakespeare? No. Is it deep, rich storytelling? Also no. Is it a popcorn-munching, big-screen-filling action and special effects with baby Grogu sneezing? 100%. If you go into the movie expecting anything else, you'll be very disappointed. But if you just realize that it's good summertime movie watching fun, then I think you'll have a really good time. Hey, after listening to this episode, head on down to the show notes and check out the links to all the stories we talked about today. While you're there, if you want to make any comments about our news stories or add to the conversation from our Mandalorian and Grogu review in the family chat, feel free to do so on any of the socials listed in the notes. And if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, use our email address, Mickey, Marvel, and More, all one word, @gmail.com. And if we read your comment on the show, you'll become an official friend of the show with all of the non-existent rights and privileges that go along with that. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, my name is Mark, and you've been listening to Mickey, Marvel, and More. If you didn't, I'm Jason Levine from Nabisco Marketing, and you've been listening to me read off all of the ingredients for the Grogu Nevarro Nummies. Nope, I am not kidding. You can buy these special edition Nilla wafers everywhere. I'll put a link down in the show notes. We'll see you next time.